What was he looking like yesterday? 19th on the single lap, no toe, a 232.1. So comfortably mid-pack yesterday, and you see the difference with no win, 238 going into turn 1. It should match up pretty close to that on the back straight as he goes into turn 3.
You know, I know teams are hesitant to go out and run in this morning situation, especially if they have an early draw in the first hour, because you want the engine cooled as much as possible. And then you also back it up a half hour because this was scheduled to begin at 8:30. So that's why you don't see a lot of cars on track. But it is a great opportunity to get clear runs and not get the aid of an aerodynamic tow. So again, you see the clock for the entire hour, but the cars on track right now must vacate the premises with 30 minutes remaining. And then the second half of the draw has the final 30 minutes of this session.
It's got Sebastian Bourdais helping him, which is one of the bigger databases you could possibly find in open wheel racing. But it's
white flag, white flag.
It's the Ganassi speed that is the concern. As you look at the speeds there, that's still about a mile an hour, maybe 1.5 slower than what we just saw out of Romain Grosjean in a Chevy.
I would also think that there is a more conservative trim level for Kyffin Simpson than there is for Scott Dixon and Alex Palou. Would that still be the case by the time you get to qualifying day?
I don't think so. One thing we've seen so far this week is that with the new Firestone compound for this year, especially at the rear of the car, what I'm hearing is, and what we're seeing when we dive in on a zoom shot of
checkered flag,
the rear wing settings, is that the downforce levels just are not as aggressive as we might have seen in the past. It seems like anytime somebody really tries to, quote, trim out, that you're just getting scrubbed. So everybody seems to be right around the same rear wing angles.
Yeah, the draw matters. The draw matters. Starting, you know, if you could go in that first hour compared to going at after 2 o'clock when it's warmer, the potential is, and the Penske cars, namely Newgarden and McLaughlin, drew well. They may do one run today, and they could be done.
You know, another thing that you've got to keep in mind with Ganassi is that of all the IndyCar teams, to my knowledge, this is the only one that has access to their own testing tunnel. The Laurel Hill Tunnel in Pennsylvania, 4.5 miles long. Abandoned since 1964, but used by Chip Ganassi Racing for exactly this purpose. Terminal velocity test, trying to optimize every bit of drag, both aerodynamic and mechanical.
Where do you feel like you would like to be more comfortable?
I'd like it to be a 234 instead of a 232. Then we would be happy, but we'll see what we can do. I think, you know, this session was good for me. I found a lot of confidence in this session. You know, yesterday, you know, it was just about me rebuilding confidence. We had a bunch of downforce on, so today we started to, you know, trim it out a little bit, and I still felt pretty good, which was a nice feeling for me, you know, knowing that we're going to qualify here in an hour or two.
All right, Linus Lundqvist feels good behind the wheel of the race car, and he'll go out about right in the middle of the qualifying order, 16th.
And his teammate Alex Palou just went to the top in this session that includes less than a third of those that we will see later today. 232.7 on his first hot lap today.
I'll bet this is right in the same 1/10 of a mile an hour. Let's see, 231.0. So it did drop. And all you can do behind the wheel, Kev, is just try to free up your hands as best as possible. I don't see any shifting going on. He's running 5th gear all the way around. That's not unusual for the wind condition right now, which is effectively 0 as Mike Hall watches on.
And this is a driver, let's look at it from this standpoint. Only Rick Mears has won as many poles for the Indianapolis 500 as Scott Dixon. He's won 5. Mears has won 6. Elio Castroneves, AJ Foyt, and Rex Mays have 4.
And unfortunately for Scott Dixon, where he can really make a difference in qualifying, regardless of the car's performance, but just relative to a lot of the other drivers in the field, is when the conditions are tough. If it's hot, if it's windy, and today and tomorrow, you're looking at pretty, I'm not going to say easy, but predictable conditions for the rest of the field. So Scott's going to feel kind of helpless, like, where do I differentiate myself?
Great point.
Hopefully this gives them the confidence. Looking at that rear wing angle, it's still just maybe right at 1 degree, nose down, 0 degrees, in that range. But this is what you have to do, is you got to get your driver to where they're flat, comfortably flat for 4 laps, and then you start to step from there.
All right, Catherine, we're coming down for the checkers. We go to map 1. We do not need a cool down. Box, box. Copy, box.
She should feel good about that. Consistent, confident, but probably ready to trim now if you're going to have a chance at locking in today in those top 30 spots.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.